Good morning, lovely people. I'm Nat and welcome to Nat's Knackers Yard. And well, it's still Rat Boy. It's always going to be Rat Boy, but Sting or Wasp or something else. Right, this weekend's challenge is I really want to sort this swing arm out because it was fine with the old bike, but now it just needs sorting, so I'm going to need to do that. Now, to do that, I need some space, because as soon as the wheel and the swing arm off, it's immobile, so I don't want to leave it outside. So let's generate a bit of space. Now, fortunately, I have magic fingers, so rather than do it myself, I'm just going to do some magic instead. There you go. Just well, I've got internet magic, otherwise that would have been really boring 40 minutes. Yeah, so I've got some space. Look at this. I've not had this much space in ages. Yeah, I'm going to drag the bike forward. Now, thinking about it, it's going to be suspended at some stage on the front wheel, and probably my axle stands. What I think I'm going to do is bang it up on the front stand as well. Yeah, I think I'll do that just for a bit of extra stability. Right, cool. Right, so it's taken a little bit of thinking, a little bit of manhandling. So I'm hooked up on my front stand, both courtesy of Mike. Cheers, mate. They are getting a lot of use, and I couldn't have done this without it, frankly. Had the back one on, jacked up from the bottom of the oil sump, and I've now got it on two axle stands on the strong part of the frame there, so I'm quite happy. It also means I can shut the garage, so happy. I've got workspace, got room. Yeah, I can crack on, although I might have a cup of tea, maybe some breakfast. Let's get, first things first is hugger off, wheel off. Yeah. Right, always a bit of a struggle getting the wheel off, but yeah, it's over there. I'm not trying to breathe heavy to be sexy, that's quite tiring. Yeah, so where are we? Let's get that jack out of the way. Don't need that anymore for the moment. Oh. There we go. Right, so what have we got? Now the shock don't look too bad, I have to say. Probably just do with a clean. Right. What next? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to whip the brake arm off, if for no other reason that I don't really want it rested against the exhaust. And whip that off, and then examine the shock as to the best way to get that off, or to get the swing arm off. And now I think I'm going to undo those two main bolts there with a dog arm attached to it there, and then start hacking away at yeah, so the two dog arms either side there that are holding on. I'm trying to balance on my elbow, excuse me. So yeah, so dog arm at that end, main bolt at that end, which should release the shock from the swing arm, and then just start looking at the swing arm itself. I don't actually need to take that off, and I won't just now because I've just managed to pull it out of the way of the exhaust. It's quite snugged there, so it's not going to hit the exhaust. Let's have a go at this shock. Right, so that's the two bolts undone. Bottom bolt on the shock. Oh, in fact, you get a good view there. I was going to do the bottom bolt there on the dog bones, but I've just done, I noticed they were better to get there, so that's now off. So I now have, quite surprised at how light that is, frankly. So that's the dog bones free. Now I think it's just the big bad boy in the middle. So I didn't have a cover on that, but I've just banged in a load of penetrating oil. I did have a cover on the other side, But the second I took it off, a lot of water fell out, which is always slightly concerning. I can't see anything to grip hold of it. I don't actually know if that's a big hex or whether or not it is. It's just a case of trying to undo the bolt on the other end, hopefully it doesn't spin too much, and belting the bugger out. But because there was no cover on it, because it's quite rusted, it's about breakfast time anyway, so I'm just going to give it another douse and then just give it 20 minutes while I have a cup of tea. Right, be right back. Right, there we go. That was, I don't say this often, surprisingly straightforward. Actually, I have to say, surprisingly light. I've never held a swing arm in my hands before, but yeah, it's quite light. Yeah, I was concerned about it swinging back and hitting anything, so I had it, you know, in classic Nat way, propped up at the axle end on a bucket. And it is just undoing that bolt on the left-hand side, right-hand side on the high side, undoing the bolt and knocking it through exactly the same as you do with a piston. With a axle. Although slightly strangely the other way around. But yeah, I suppose that makes sense rather than having all the open nuts on one side of a bike. Yeah, no dents, no chunks, no nothing. It's just cosmetics. So what I'm going to do is strip that down a little bit more, get rid of the dodgy carbon tape. In fact, first things first is to whip the chainstay off, because obviously that's pinned underneath. I think I'm going to have all sorts of fun and games, because obviously this has been, you know, gorilla glued at various stages, so I think I'll get my heat gun out and just bang that over. However, whilst my hands are pretty minging anyway, I think I'm going to have a bit of an explore of how I get. That looks reasonably straightforward at the top of the shock. It just looks like a straight bolt through. Yeah, I'm going to whip that out now as well while I'm here. Looks good actually. Look at the actual working surface, and it's nice and clean. It's not pitted, not rusted, no chunks and bumps out of it. So I think this is just going to be, you know, dare I say it, a fairly cosmetic workover. And it's whether or not I'm feeling brave as to whether or not I try and change the colour of the spring itself. But let's see if I can get it off first before I get too excited. And there we go, equally as easy. It was just that single bolt up the top, nice and simple. Yeah, well happy with that. And as for the condition, it's just greasy. It's in good nick. Look at the travelling surface on the actual piston, the shiny bit. That's beautiful. No issues with that in the slightest. It's just going to need a clean up. So that is brake cleaner, rag, and time really. But yep. Now you might notice under here, I'm not bagging up parts or anything. I'm just literally dumping them down there. I hate losing stuff. So important to me is putting it somewhere I can't kick it. But actually what I like to do is orientate it the way that I've got it out. Because you do forget, and it just saves me looking back at the videos. But also part of the rationale for doing these videos in the first place is so that I do have something to look back on when I can't remember, which is quite frequent. So yeah, that'll do. I think while I've got access to it, it'd be a shame not to clean that up. I'm not going to take it off and spray it or anything. I'm just going to give it a dose down with some brake cleaner and get it a bit smarter. But first things first, I'm going to pick those up and slide them underneath so they don't get covered in crap. Put a bit of cardboard down or something, and then just give it a quick dose while I've got free-flowing access to everything I need. And then I'm going to start having a go at this swing arm. Alright, slight change of plan. I've just given it a good wipe off, and that looks considerably better. I've also installed it more so I didn't trip over it and kick it more than anything else. Now I'm going to start stripping the crap off here. Yeah, it's a nice surprise when you rip one layer off, find another one even more secured underneath. I've got a feeling that I'm going to hate doing this, probably regret doing it, but it needs to be done. I think I might break out my blower, warm it up and have a crack. Right, a bit of a break there. I had to take my daughter to drama, which was handy because I was lazy and I took the car and I nipped to not my nearest but my second nearest hardware shop, which is closer than Halford's to me, and got some cam brush flat black for £5.99, which is a very good price actually. It's competitive with internet when you include postage and packaging and all of that, so that's for that. I bought two because they had two and it's black paint, it will get used. But what I also picked up was high temperature paint, so which was a bit more expensive. So having consulted with the masses, I think you've pretty much agreed with me, chaps, in terms of the downpipes. I've got to do something with them. I'm not a fan of wrap. I think it might suit the kind of calf look, but the issue with wrap that I've found is that it changes colour too quick. So you can get some really nice black, chuck it on, burn it through a little bit, and it'll go patchy white, and it's just going to look pretty horrendous on this. So at some point, I think that frankly that's sort of post MOT, and what I want to do is get all this done this weekend, and then hopefully, if I get it all done in time, bearing in mind I've got other stuff and family commitments throughout, if I get it all done, I can MOT it next weekend. If I'm going to MOT it, I will take the Chinese scooter out the back there and MOT them both at the same time while I've got the van. That's the plan, and I intend to do that next weekend. But first things first is to heat this up and get rid of some of this crappy stickers. I think this is going to be a bit of a Herculean task, but we can do what we can do, can't we? Let's get on with it. Right, it's taken a lot of effort and a bit of swearing. Yeah, and I've been cursing the previous owner of this bike as well. Yeah, getting that Gorilla Glue off was a bit of a shag, but the best thing I found is a sharp craft knife with a flat blade, and just you can see brush marks on this. This has just been brush painted before, I'm sure. Yeah, so I'm getting there. I'm now going to break out the sander and just flatten off what I've got. It's not going to be perfect, but as long as it's better than was, I will be broadly content. So yeah, that's effectively what I've been doing all the way around it. Now, as far as the bearings and the likes are concerned, they're absolutely fine. I've left the caps, I have taken them off and examined them. They're brilliant. There's no issues with them at all. I've left the caps on them just to protect them while I'm doing all of this crap. It's just one more barrier than getting stuff in there, but just to hoik them off, you know, they are fine. They are bang on, not a problem. So I'll give them a bit of a clean up and a fresh grease, but there's no point doing any of that right now while I'm just really making a mess. Now I could chuck some paint stripper on and go for it that way, an approach I may find myself doing naturally. I might just chuck a little wedge on actually and see how it removes it, because if it pretty much wipes it off, which I've got a feeling it will do, we'll see how we go. But let me think. No, stick with what you're going to do now. Break out my little sander and have a quick go, see how it goes. Okay, well, bugger me, has that been a lot more work than I expected. Yeah, been a long day with other stuff like drama clubs and school fairs and stuff like that. I have resorted to paint stripper. There was no way I was going to get that off by sanding it, not a chance. So I've had to go chemical. It's about as good as I can get, and certainly be fine once it's had some filler on it and some paint on it as well. The weather's not great, but I'm going to try and get some filler, some primer on it. I've got some X primer kicking around. Try and get some primer on it and see how we get on. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be better. And when it comes down to it, it's all I'm particularly bothered in, is getting it better. So I'm going to give it a quick rub down. I think that's 800, 400, just on the visible surfaces, so the flat edges and the top edges, just to make sure I've got it as good as I can get it where it's visible, and then chuck some primer on it. Right, so that's the etch primer, that's the word I was looking for. Etch primer on the swing arm, the brake mount and the brake arm. And down here is the ends. I'm going to chuck some black on it. Now the sun's looks like it's going to hold for a little while, and then hopefully that'll allow it to cure overnight, and I should be able to get it on tomorrow. Right, so I think I might have probably one more coat. I'll try that again. Specifically of the swing arm, but I think I'm probably going to wrap my filming up for the day. The ends are looking fine there. I've been moved up the garden a bit because apparently my cast off was catching the strawberries. So if that's all I get in trouble for today, it's a good day. Yeah, so swing arm's looking good actually. I'm happy. By looking good, it's looking considerably better than it was with that horrible tape that was falling off it throughout. Yeah, looking good, and the other bit's looking fine as well. So I'm just going to chuck on another coat of paint there, heavily supervised by the dog. Wait, lady. Yes. Who I just collared doing something naughty she shouldn't do, so she's in a strange mood. Yeah, so tomorrow, I'll leave these to cure tonight, and tomorrow should be a little bit more interesting of rebuilding the bike and putting it back on and putting that new wheel on. So I'm on target for having the bike MOT-able next weekend. So effectively, or having it MOT-able tomorrow, but getting it MOT'd next weekend, along with the Chinese 125, just to save a bit of arsing about and chuck them both in the back of the van, or a higher van, and take them off. So yeah, not the most enthralling of videos today, and I do apologise, but there's sometimes when you just need to crack on with stuff. But the look forward is to tomorrow's, if I get the opportunity. I should. I've had the luxury of a fair amount of time today. I won't have that tomorrow, but hopefully, all being well, it shouldn't take too long. For those that are querying, I have taken out all of the various gubbins and plugged up the ends and everything, so you know that's fine. But like I say, the functionality was fine. It was the form that was arse. But yeah, that'll do. That'll do me for now. Yeah, the look forward is to throwing it all back together tomorrow. But thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, thanks for sharing, thanks for the comments. I love receiving them, and like I've said before, I do try and reply to all of them, or those that are replyable. Not people trying to sell their bodies, their souls and everything else. But yeah, thanks very much all, and I'll catch you later. Ta-da.